Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to Rerouted. This is literally the final Rerouted episode ever. And joining us today are Saqib Ali and Sabur Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you, brothers?
Alhamdulillah.
How are you, Saqib?
Yeah, good.
Haven't seen you around for a while.
Yeah, I've been here and there.
Here and there, mashallah. How are you, Sabur?
Good. Unfortunately,
You don't look good.
Unfortunately, you've been seeing too much of him.
Yes. Yeah, I see too much of him always. Even if it's once a month, it's too much fun. But how are you, bro? You okay?
Yeah,
You seem like you've been busy.
Jamal got me a strong coffee, so
Yeah, you needed it.
Yes, I did actually.
So we're going to be talking about some interesting things today, bro. Inshallah. Where do we start? I'm just trying to think. Where should we start with this? Maybe let's start with Rerouted itself. And I'll go to Saqib first. Because it was somewhat of his baby, and a few other people's baby. Tell us about Rerouted, bro. The good, the bad, and what's going on now.
I'll tell you, it was a joint parentship. Does that mean a word? The good, the bad, why is ending? All right, so yeah, it's been a good year since we did have an episode, and alhamdulillah, it was a good run actually.
So we had original Rerouted first.
Yeah, with Musa
First
Adnan.
season.
Yeah.
Then we had Rerouted Raw,
Yeah.
which continued,
Yeah.
which was phenomenal. I think one of the best things about it was the Revert stories.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was the
that
focus,
was
Revert stories.
Amazing, mashallah.
Yeah. Ben Ikra did a really good job, mashallah.
And now we are terminating.
Yeah, that's a very... Yeah, okay.
Why are we closing this down, bro?
So, in essence, we're going to take our content... We've been quite quiet for the last several months, to be honest. I mean, since the Watch Your Goal campaign, we've kind of been quiet. It's kind of been a bit derelict, our YouTube channel especially. And this, for some reason, there are a few reasons for that. The focus was initially fundraising, Ramadan. And then after that, we just we had some strategic shifts, if you want to call it that. Obviously, Sabur will go into more detail, inshallah. But in essence, we are going to have a focus of the Revert stories, those real Revert stories, but it's going to be more of an interview format. So that's the idea. That's the next stream of content that we're going to really be focusing on, inshallah. We have a bunch ready to get edited. Obviously, we're going to sort of try to push it out as the iERA standard, the iERA seal of approval, in terms of it being recorded properly, proper B-roll, etc., etc. I'm not going to go into sort of start using filming terminology and bore everyone with that. But yeah, in essence, in terms of content, a strategic shift in content, that's what we're going to be moving down towards. But so in essence, it's that really. So Rerouted's kind of had its run, mashallah. The last episode was a year ago, but now it's here. So it's kind of, you could say it's kind of, putting a pin in it, and then khalas, it's going to be finished.
You always have very high standards, don't you, with the media production?
I think there's always been high standards.
We're going to go to our CEO now, inshallah, which we'll talk about in a second. People are like, what CEO? What's the CEO? Sabur,
Yeah.
Who's CEO? But we'll get to that. You have a slightly different view on YouTube media production, right?
That's a charitable
Well, what's the term used? Potatoes.
So let's bring that up. I think it'd be an interesting discussion, inshallah. Like, what is your views on... Like, don't base it... If people go by, what you've put out on your channel over the years, quality-wise, then...
it's improved.
Yeah, I remember when you used to have a broken camera.
Yeah,
and you can see the break in the screen.
He'd be walking to the office on his phone, and it'll be like, on his Nokia 3210. And
But putting that aside, what's your take on, media standards? Not content-wise, but just the look and the...
When you're doing individual stuff, so you got the art in different parts of the world, or myself filming, you could be quite liberal with the way that you film and edit and that kind of thing. But when it comes to things you want to produce for iERA's always had that gold standard. It's always had that feel, that crisp, sharp feel. Someone can look at that and say, okay, that's different, that's fresh, that's interesting, that's engaging. That's always been iERA's sort of ethos. So, Rerouted is, different as a podcast because it came as a Dawah podcast, but it came with that professionalism. And, that's one of the reasons in this final episode we want to talk about the change of direction on this podcast.
Yep.
So that, people that have been following this for, 2-3 years now, they can see that this is the new direction that iERA is going to be going in.
Actually, the first episode was 2019.
Wow.
That's 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Moose with Musa, yeah?
I was in Musa beginning of 2019. Yeah, so, and obviously, with podcasts and within the sort of Dawah realm we're in, you kind of have your conveyor belt of typical guests as well. And that's one of the issues. There were other sort of Muslim podcasts out there as well who have had similar guests. So it's like rinse and repeat. And that's one of the problems with being in a specific niche, if you want to call it that.
That's why I think the new Muslim stories were very powerful.
That's why.
Because you were adding something new.
Yeah.
With the level of finishing.
Yeah.
The product.
Yeah, that podcast feel to it. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, that was good, mashallah. So new direction. So there have been some changes, obviously.
Yeah.
What is your new role in iERA, right? And tell us a bit about that, inshallah.
So it's, the change in direction really came in 2020, and then I was given this role last year. So 2 years into the new change of direction. The change of direction, I'm sure people noticed. It's, we are not focusing on the academic stuff. We're not focusing on the high-level debates, the high-level discussions, those types of things. We're going back to the bread and butter of Dawah, the grassroots Dawah, the basic Dawah. And that is, in essence, the majority of the Dawah conversations that are happening across the world. Majority of the conversations that are happening with your neighbor. They're not happening with a philosopher or a professor. And that's what we want to specialize in. And to be good at anything, you need to focus. To be good at anything, you need that laser sharp focus. So, in 2020, there was a decision made to optimize iERA, to focus in on the regions. Where are we getting these shahadas from? Why are these shahadas coming in? What is the reasons that these people are accepting Islam? How can we actually increase these shahadas? What's the variables here? And then when we applied that thinking to certain regions like East Africa and the Philippines, we could see it's a simple formula. People are accepting Islam. The Go Rap is working, the basic message of Islam, and taking care of these new Muslims. Once we have this model going and we start increasing the number of du'at, the number of shahadas, the number of new Muslims being supported just increased. So we went from, you spoke about 2019, 2019, 2018, 2017, these early years, we were on maybe
3,000.
1,000 shahadas.
2017, 3,000, then it went to 5, then it was 10, and
so look at the
trajectory.
The trajectory, right? The early years of iERA, not even 100. Then we got to 1,000. Then it was sort of plateauing on 1,000, then 3,000. Then 2020 was around 5,000, right? 2022...
13,000.
No, 2022, 2 years later, it went from 5 to over 50,000.
So was that planned? Meaning, was that a part of the vision to get more shahadas?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was very clear, and it came from the board directly. It was very clear that this is the direction we want to go into. We want to, previously, if you remember, we did these massive campaigns, 100 countries, and all of these things, and we were focusing on the mass movement. We were focusing on getting Muslims,
people giving dawah,
generally Muslims getting engaged in dawah, and we changed to let's have these specialized people, these people who are very good at what they're doing.
Let's take a trip down memory lane, because it's probably important to go through this, like the phases of iERA, right? So initially, the first phase was 2009/2010, the launch tour, right? So should we just take it back there?
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice.
Do a quick recap, right? So who knows the story of Sheikh Green and the Yusuf Chambers and
in the best
Sarkis?
position to.
Do you want to go through that? Like, how did iERA come about?
There was a need for a dawah organization to work at a very large scale. There are fantastic dawah organizations all across the world doing dawah, right? We're not saying we're the first one, and we work with all dawah organizations across the world. We're happy to do that. But a big, grand vision, right? A big idea, this is what we found was needed. And this is before I joined. I joined in 2010. So this is back in 2008, where Saqib Sattar, Yusuf Chambers, Sheikh Green, and then the next couple of months or the next year, I think Hamza joined. So that was the original core team, that they wanted this grand vision. We were going to give dawah all across the world. So 2010, 2011, 12, 13, we find iERA's doing different things. They are doing grassroots dawah, they are doing intellectual debates, they're doing intellectual talks. And even at that time, I'm sure people thought, these are different areas.
I mean, during the inception of iERA, right, the goal rap methodology came about. I think Sheikh Green.
No, I think Sheikh Green had the go rap.
So the
concept of the go rap before that.
The basic idea of the go rap, I believe it was called something foundations, right? So Sheikh Green had the go rap, but it was called something else. And importantly, this idea, sometimes, you know, something can be really important, but it's glossed over, right? I attended, you know, I've attended dawah trainings online, offline, and I can say that the go rap is literally a revolution in thinking. Even today, even now that it's online, you go online, find a dawah course. In fact, even some dawah teams, they've launched their own dawah courses. What's unique about iERA is that they designed a methodology to give dawah, which was grounded in the Sunnah, grounded in the Quran, and it was so incredibly simple, and it bypassed a lot of issues which were hindrances to dawah, right? So that is, I believe, one of the reasons why iERA really took off, because we were ready to go and tell people, what you got to do is, you essentially you have to get to the root of the issue, which is, who decides what is right and wrong? Who decides what is true? And just to get to the central message of Islam, to speak about the truthfulness of Islam, Tawheed, the Quran, the Prophet ﷺ, that's it. You get away from everything, because it is a distraction. So that revolutionary thinking was one of the reasons why iERA became very well known.
Yeah. So then there were, so initially 2011, 2012, they were iERA as an organization, or just delivering all these dawah training courses, right?
All across the UK.
All across the UK.
We found ourselves, yeah.
And then from then, 2012 was the Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Olympics could be seen as a point of inflection, because we were always talking about the mass movement, big numbers, galvanizing people in a big way. And there's around 500 people all wearing yellow T-shirts.
It's life just a game.
It's life just a game. Visually very appealing, clear for everyone to see. Wow, there is something big going on.
So what was the point of the campaigns?
The point of the campaigns, I couldn't boil it down to one point. I think it was marketing, it was dawah, it was...
it's marketing in terms of
marketing
galvanizing Muslims to get involved in the dawah.
The importance of dawah.
Yeah, okay.
Right? We also, in a way, were creating identity, right? So the du'at wearing, you know, the same T-shirts with the same go rap, giving the dawah a very particular... I mean, we could have given people, you know, collared shirts and something different, like Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever. There was a particular thinking behind the color, the design, even the venue, the way it's going to be filmed.
It's contemporary, yeah.
Yeah, so we wanted, you know, something special. So I think one of the big things that happened at that time were people started organically starting their own teams. They started, I remember in Bahrain they started in India, they started in so many different parts of the world, just started giving dawah. Me and you went to
Canada.
Austria. Before going to Canada, I say after going to Canada, went to Austria. The dawah team there, they were inspired by what they saw online. So what's your goal? Is life just a game? Who do you love? Don't shoot the messenger. All these campaigns, they did really well.
So that's phase 2 of iERA, right? You could say that's phase 2. And then now we're moving on to phase 3.
No, during phase 2, there was another activity we were involved in, which
is intellectual dawah.
The debates.
Yeah. So Lawrence Krauss, Hamza Zotsi.
I mean, Lawrence, everybody always goes back to Lawrence Krauss debate, but that was, if you like, the peak of it. There were debates happening all over the country, right? And there was really big, guys that were being debated.
Some infamous ones in Ireland. And
yeah, absolutely. There were all sorts of these debates and discussions happening, and that's just one that took off, right?
I mean, it is respectively is a form of dawah, though. Like, just having that stage, having that platform where intellectual du'at are there and present, it is a great form of dawah in it of itself. Yeah. Even though a good chunk of people may not understand it.
There's a place for it, definitely.
Yeah. I think with the problem, if I could summarize it, would be that if you as an organization are doing the intellectual dawah, then you're doing grassroots, then your resources and your energy is going to go sometimes 50-50, sometimes 60-40.
There's no focus.
It's split. Yeah. It's split, yeah.
But if you think about the actual percentage of people that need the grassroots and the percentage of people that need the intellectual, you'll see that actually the vast majority of people need the grassroots.
Yeah. I mean, it is niche. Like, it's super niche.
It's niche.
Yeah.
And the problem with a niche, having something niche as part of your activities, is that the public is confused. Say the Muslim supporters, they're confused. So are they doing grassroots dawah? Are they doing intellectual dawah? Is it that the grassroots du'at need to get up to the level of intellectual dawah? Is it that there's this type of chain that you need to go up, this ladder? And that was definitely not the plan. It was just about the direct grassroots dawah. That was the core. That was always supposed to be the core. And so the change in 2020 in
wait, hold on. There's another phase. You're jumping ahead. If they can trip down memory lane, it's been nearly 15 years of iERA, right? So phase 2, we're finishing.
You're a good host.
Yeah, thanks. We're just wrapping up on it. Now it's going to be phase 3, which you kind of touched upon before, which was
specialized
du'at.
Specialized du'at. Yes, I think that's a good way of putting it. So rather than focusing on the mass movement, it was specialized du'at. So we stopped doing these big campaigns because it wasn't that the big campaigns couldn't fit our strategy. It's that a big campaign will take up a lot of your time, will take up a lot of your energy, your resource, your focus. You can't do everything, right? So we decided to bring on outreach specialists, people very good at dawah. Now, at this point, and I'm glad you called it phase 3, we didn't distinguish between the grassroots and the intellectual. So we had Sheikh Fahd Taslim in America, who's intellectual. Then we had Ali Bishara, who's doing the grassroots dawah in
Bahrain. Around 2016, 2017?
Yeah, around that time, yeah. Okay. So we're not differentiating between the intellectual du'at and the grassroots du'at. So that's the third phase. The third phase in which we grew, but we didn't grow in a significant way. We grew by maybe 5-6 people.
So in essence, it was like bright spotting all those individuals throughout the campaigns when you were running it, both yourself and Saladin, mashallah, right? So and then these gems, right, who were being unearthed all around the world, be it Honduras with Ayman Hamami, mashallah, or Sheikh Fahad in America.
That's right.
So that's like, they were the first few hirings, right, from the culmination of these campaigns. Yeah?
But what were you looking for?
No, that is the way they were. They were.
They kind of rose to the top from the extreme.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ayman Hamami, that's exactly how he came into our purview. We saw him during the campaigns. The same with others.
But what were you looking for? Like, what was their what was the end goal in mind by which you were deciding, okay, this is the sort of perfect person we're looking for a role?
The idea was, rather than training up the masses of the public to get involved in that,
but now you're focused.
We are going to have specialized du'at who are going to give dawah. They can train the public as well, but they then are going to focus on giving dawah. Now, at that particular time, our metrics of success were quite varied. So how many people were given the message of Islam to, debate, how did the debate go, university talks, how many talks are delivered, how many teams are created. At that time, it was about creating teams. So there's many different metrics.
Because you did many different things,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
But then the fourth phase, which is 2020, was where we dropped all of the metrics except very clearly hiring people who are focusing on giving grassroots dawah and who are getting the most results.
Okay.
Because look, it's very simple. Say you have hired 2 du'at. They're in the same city. One is getting 10 shahadas with 80% retention.
Wait, actually, let's take a step back again here. Why, beforehand when we were running the campaigns, we had the art, volunteering and everything. So why did we have to hire them? Why can't we just keep them on a voluntary basis?
Excellent. We were happy to have them volunteering for us, and they would have volunteered for us regardless. What we wanted to do was free up their time from their day-to-day job so that they could focus on
Fully
the dawah.
focus, yeah.
So for example, Ayman Hamimi in Honduras is a trained lawyer. That's what he does as a profession. That comes with a lot of commitment. He has court dates, he has clients, maybe he's getting people out of jail. I don't know. But it takes up a lot of time. If he is going to be running a dawah center like he is right now in Tegucigalpa, the place that me and you went a few years back, then he naturally has to be freed up.
Yes, that's
His
the
time has to be freed up.
Your tajweed on Tegucigalpa is very
Yes,
good.
I remember you told me.
He made sure not to.
Because he was filming at the time, and so he was teaching.
What did you say at the time?
I don't know what I was saying.
He's
but
butchering it.
I was
He's
butchering it.
It's the capital of Honduras, and he just butchered it so close.
Yes. So that was the reason behind us freeing up these doors. Because, one of the things that people start thinking is, as soon as you pay somebody, the sincerity is gone or questionable. But you have to keep something in mind. We are hiring people who are passionate about dawah. We're hiring people that have volunteered for us. We're hiring people not to give dawah that we're paying them. We're not paying them to give dawah. We are paying them to free up their time so that they give dawah. It's slightly
It's a different way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's very important. Going back to what you were saying.
But obviously,
go on. No, go on. You-
obviously, we want to take the dawah seriously, and that's the thing. And we had to free up people's time, right? Because if we are going to take it to the next level, if we are going to sort of fulfill the prophecy of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam of Islam in every home, right? It can't be like a bunch of part-timers and volunteers. It can't be. It has to be more than that. Obviously, volunteers do have a place in it, and as well as people doing part-time.
we have volunteers still. Like
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things we focused on is getting more volunteers. So they have an important role to play. But what you guys are saying is important, which is, in any specialization, the specialist needs to be focused and fully committed 100%.
Yeah,
He can't be distracted by 5 other things. And to make that happen, you have to hire the person, meaning you free up their time so that they're not bogged down with other things and they can focus on this particular task.
So, and if we just quickly compare ourselves to other missionary or Christian missionary organizations, right? Let's talk about the numbers. How many missionaries are still in these organizations?
You can't compare at the moment.
Tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands.
And in one case that I know of, hundreds, thousands.
Hundreds of thousands.
Yes.
Yeah.
400,000 in particular. Yeah. So when it comes to our focus at that point in 2020, it was, okay, let's focus on people that do grassroots dawah, one. So we're not doing the intellectual dawah anymore. That goes...
Just define grassroots a bit, because we mentioned that a couple of times, and people may not understand that. They understand intellectual dawah is quite obvious, right? But when you say grassroots dawah, what are you saying?
Maybe not even call it grassroots, just call it dawah. What has dawah been for 1400 years? Dawah has been someone going out there calling people to Allah, to the worship of Allah, to the submission to Allah. Very basic arguments, right? Back a couple of hundred years ago, you wouldn't even need to talk about God's existence, but nowadays you do. So a little bit about why we believe in God, then why we believe in the Quran, why we believe in the Prophet ﷺ. And since Islam is true, then whatever comes from truth is true. So, just taking people back to the basics. That's it.
Simple basic stuff.
Intellectual dawah would be explaining to people the Kalam cosmological argument, you know, the contingency argument, moral argument, design argument, logical argument.
You don't need that for
Occam's
most
razor,
people. Yeah.
You know, all this other fluffy stuff. And, you know, even when it comes to defending the religion intellectually, you know, a particular issue about whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Preservation of Quran. Okay, debate. We don't do that.
Yeah.
That's not grassroots, because your average person, say Joe living down the road, you know, he's not interested in that. He's interested in just the basics.
Yeah, it's good to make that distinction, because, you know, when we say, because someone can say the Go Rap is intellectual dawah because there's some arguments in it. But what you're saying is, no, the distinction here is, we're talking about something, the bare minimum, the simple stuff that Joe down the road can understand as well.
That's right.
Right? Anything to get him to the understanding that God exists, that he is one, that he deserves worship. It's just the bare bones, basically. That's what.
So from now on, every time you see a Sabur Ahmed video in Speaker's Corner, you're gonna dislike. You're gonna dislike the video, and you're gonna unsubscribe from his channel.
No, yeah. With Sabur, you have to remember. I'm not saying he's schizophrenic, but
Follow me on Patreon.
yeah, I'm not saying he's schizophrenic, but
Time for shameless plugging.
there are different
Make sure you
Saburs.
cut that bit out.
Yeah, there's a few different Saburs. So let's leave out Sabur Ahmed on, you know, his Darwinian delusions aside, and just focus on the Sabur Ahmed iERA right now.
You should just use the second part of the channel name.
Yes.
You
Delusions
really were gonna crack him. I'm gonna start cracking.
Yeah, but it's a hard job for Jamal then, isn't it? He needs to cut so many things.
Jamal's alright.
Anyway, let's get you back now to the point you were talking about the
Phase 3 is done.
phase 4 metrics,
And
the
that's
focus,
Phase 4, yeah.
the criteria to pick someone that is a full-time paid dawah at the iERA. You just like to talk about that before he rudely interrupted you.
Yeah, so we wanted not only to bring in people who do grassroots dawah, and we've defined that now. We wanted those people who are, we wanted them to focus on areas that are successful. So say you are in the Philippines, there's the area of Luzon. In that area, there's a particular city. In that city, there's a particular region. There's a neighborhood of people who are accepting Islam. Focus on them. Oh, a few more people are accepting Islam there than we anticipated. Send in a new Muslim teacher. Send in another da'i. We don't need to spread our wings everywhere. We don't need to spread ourselves so thin. We can just start focusing in on, okay, this region of East Africa, this is pretty fruitful. This area of East Africa, this country, this city, this
How
village.
do you discover an area is fruitful? What do we do?
This is a good question. Say a country like Malawi. Malawi, Uganda, Tanzania, say these countries, right? The very first thing is, we've hired a few du'at. So in some countries, the du'at are working hard and getting more results than other countries where du'at are also working hard. So they're working hard in Nigeria, they're working hard in Malawi. But the results in Malawi are more. Okay, so now we zoom in. Is it that Malawi is doing better because that particular da'i in Malawi is better than the da'i in Nigeria? Or is it that the people are more receptive? Actually, we've discovered they're both working hard. It's just that the people of Malawi are more receptive to Islam. Okay, now we go in. So since they're more receptive to Islam, we're more likely to get shahadas here than if we increased in Nigeria or Ghana, wherever. So then we'll start hiring more people in Malawi. And now when we are working in Malawi, we have different territorial authorities. We have different regions. Some regions have more Muslims than others. And the area, now this is interesting. Now this is where we start doing the analysis part. In London, are people more likely to accept Islam than in Grimsby? Would you say?
They're not
Just
more
off the top of your
I'm
head.
saying London is more.
I would say they're not more likely in London.
I think they're more likely
Okay.
in London.
Let's just say you live in Southall, so we'll ignore your ideas about London, right?
Yeah.
You just live in a particularly different part.
A place you love to visit and be there and message me whatever it
And
is.
as Saqib said, in areas where there's a lot of Muslims, people are more likely to accept Islam. We've seen this again and again. Okay? So, in certain areas in Malawi, we will find, oh wait, there's people. So I visited a place called Bangwe. So in this area, people are accepting Islam. So what we would do, we would say, okay, So now we know another factor. It's not only Malawi, it's areas in Malawi which are villages, not cities. Because previously our guys used to give dawah in the city. So there's more results in the villages. So there's something about village dawah which you're more likely to get results. Third factor, wherever there are more Muslims, as opposed to all Christians, people are more likely to accept Islam. So if there's a village with 50% Muslims, 50% Christians, there's another village next door with only Christians, we will go to the village which has 50-50. And that also helps new Muslim retention, right? Because of our law.
And even it works in the UK, is like Leicester, for example.
Yes, Leicester.
We've seen that there's a lot more shahadas that take place there because the non-Muslims have grown up with Muslims. So they're aware of Islam already. They've interacted with Muslims, and that really helps them, come to Islam.
Already warmed up to an extent.
Let me ask you a question. Let me put you on the spot, because maybe someone's got these questions. It's good to talk about this. Someone will say, okay, I've seen your strategy and I've seen how you're working this. But what about these other areas? Don't these other people deserve dawah as well? Because they're not converting as readily as in another place.
Excellent question.
What would you say to that?
Excellent question. And this is, in fact, a question which has been put to us. And the answer to that is everybody does. And eventually everyone will, inshallah. However, if you have limited resources, in the very beginning, the genesis, the embryological stages of your dawah, you have to use your resources in the most effective way.
Yes.
When iERA, say 2071, I say 2071 because 1071 is a very important Islamic date in history. So say 1,000 years after that, 2071, we have a couple of 100,000 du'at, inshallah, right? Why wouldn't we be in areas of the world where people are way less likely to accept Islam, and we are growing in those areas, right? We could be in a really hostile area, people who are really unlikely to become Muslim, and people very stern against Islam. We could be growing in those areas. So we will get there, inshallah. But in the beginning, when you have very limited resources, then you should focus in on the areas where you're getting most results. Now, when the Prophet ﷺ was giving dawah, he was giving dawah in Makkah. For how many years?
Decade, I think, isn't it?
Over a decade.
Yeah.
Okay. What were the results like?
Well, the poor and the not well-to-do accepted, and the rich and elite didn't accept.
Generally.
Yeah.
Okay. When he went to Taif, what happened?
He was rejected.
Was the reception like in Medina?
Much better.
Much better, yeah.
Why couldn't someone say, why don't you just try Taif again and try Makkah again?
Prophet ﷺ went to Medina, settled.
Why?
Because he was invited there. He was more receptive. People were more receptive. And
if we break it down, people were accepting Islam. There's a whole bunch of other factors too, but that's a deciding factor.
It's a big factor, yeah, definitely.
People are giving him support. People are accepting Islam. Why should we say, no, let's just go back to Taif? Okay, we're giving dawah in Eastern Europe or wherever. Why are we going to East Africa? Just focus on East Europe because it's closer to the UK than Africa, right? So we're not doing that. Where we are getting results, we are focusing in. Now, these factors I mentioned, so we narrow it down to the area, we narrow it down to the du'at. Now we look at other things in terms of optimization. So one particular da'i is not getting results, the other da'i is getting results. Someone can say, oh, Allah guides.
Well, define, what do you mean by results? So
they're getting new Muslims that are practicing Islam.
Okay, so people accept Islam
and they are practicing.
And they practice.
So remember, as an organization, we frankly don't care if we have 1,000 shahadas. I've deleted shahadas myself in the beginning phase when new Muslim support wasn't done in certain areas. I deleted those shahadas, even though those are real shahadas. I deleted them from our record because until and unless those new Muslims go through the new Muslim program, we're messing around, we're playing games, we're not doing our job properly.
Yes.
They have to attend new Muslim classes. We have to provide new Muslim classes or else we're just messing around.
No, that's a very important part.
So, So in Africa, for example, we are in some areas, for all areas of Malawi, we are there for approximately a month. That's the minimum. But in some areas, we are there for 2-3 months.
Yeah.
We have a 6-month Imam program. We have all these different things going on, right? So that's what we measure success by. Success is 2 things, shahadas and new Muslim retention. That is how we measure.
As I
And
that's
they
our
go
metric.
hand in hand.
Okay.
If somebody does the caravan dawah stuff, driving around, getting out, giving dawah, getting shahadas, taking pictures, moving on,
Yeah, it's not good.
irrelevant.
Yeah.
That person does not belong in our organization, and that person, we will not continue to hire such a
It's
person.
good you clarify because it's very important. Very, very important, bro, because that is exactly what we don't want to do. Just because the numbers are increasing, it doesn't mean that the standards are decreasing.
Let me tell you something interesting.
Yeah.
This is something very interesting. We have around 100 something people in Malawi. I don't know the number exactly, 170 or whatever. Do you know that the majority of the time, the du'at are actually teaching new Muslims? They go to a village, and the standard process is they go to a village and they give dawah for 3 days. 1, 2, 3. Third day, they say, who wants to accept Islam? People accept Islam.
Yeah.
The next day, immediately, they start new Muslim classes. Those new Muslims are then being, the record is being kept about their attendance.
Progress, yeah.
So when those new Muslims have attended, we know, say 100 people became Muslim on day 3, 75 attended the new Muslim classes, which go on for approximately to the end of the month. Okay. Now, those people of those 75, we say those are retention. Even though the 25 that didn't attend, it could be they're still Muslim. We're not saying they're not Muslim, but we are so strict. We say, okay, the ones who attended, we call that retention.
Good.
Anybody who attended new Muslim classes, retention. Now, we as an organization have a target which has been given to us by our board, which is 80% retention. Now, we would love 100% retention.
It just doesn't happen in the real
But
world. Yeah.
it's a realistic target,
Yeah.
minimum 80%. Do you know what is the retention of new Muslims in the UK?
It's less than 50, isn't it?
It's very low.
Yeah, it's low. Yeah.
A lot of new Muslims leave Islam, no support. So we don't do that. Okay. So this last phase is where we got du'at who focus in on dawah. We got and the example I was giving before was about the 2 du'at that get 2 different results. One's getting shahadah, one's not getting shahadah in the same area. Now someone can turn around and say,
Wait, so slow down. Just so we're not rushing. Let's paint the picture, yeah? Because you already sped up. I don't know if it's a coffee getting to you.
I don't know.
So
it's Duman's coffee.
there's 2 du'at you're saying now. No, it's
I
not.
don't know where you're putting
It's not about the area now, right? You're not saying Malawi compared to somewhere else. 2 du'at in the same area.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
One of them is getting every month 10 people accepting Islam, 7 are attending new Muslim classes.
Okay.
One da'i is getting 5 people accepting Islam and 1 person attending a new Muslim class. His new Muslim retention is low and his shahadas are low. Now, if his shahadas were lower but his new Muslim retention was higher, then we have a case of, okay, he's doing better than the other.
Okay. Is this assuming both of them are equally as good at giving dawah?
See, this is the point. Then we would pin it down to why is this guy getting more shahadas than the other? Because one thing that is used, which is true, but it's used in the wrong context, is Allah guides.
Yeah.
Of course Allah guides, but Allah also allows you to digest water. Allah is the one who provides for you your income. You don't say, I'm not going to go for the best job. I'm not going to go to fix up my CV. Allah provides risk.
You tie your camel every
Why am I
tie your
going
camel, yeah.
to do up my CV, right? Allah provides risk. Let me just get this.
too complacent.
This Tesco.
It's like when he hasn't eaten for 3 days.
Scribble.
Sabur hasn't eaten for 3 days. He doesn't say, sit there, I'm hungry, Allah will provide. He goes to the fridge. I've seen him myself.
But you will find people do make these excuses. Allah.
So what is the excuse to them? What do they say?
No, as in, what we want to do is we aren't going to look at the situation and say, Abdullah and Bilal, the reason why Abdullah did better is because Allah guides. Allah guides, of course. However,
There's
why
means.
isn't Bilal doing as well? Okay, let's observe them. And here is a factor which we have noticed. The confidence of the da'i makes a huge difference. So if you have a da'i who's talking with confidence and passion and energy and drive and he has this thing, people are looking at him, they're like, wow, this guy is really convinced, right? And he's talking to us. And the other guy is giving a khutbah like he's got the, his khutbah is the, not khutbah, his bayan is like the
It's cure for insomnia.
That's what it says, isn't it?
Beautiful.
Cure for insomnia.
Beautiful. You've been a good student. So you would think
He used to refer to Slaudin as the cure for insomnia.
he needs
The new Muslim class.
No, the Dawah training. New
No, it's the new.
No, it's, anyway, that's a tangent.
he needs training.
Yeah.
We'll say he needs training. So that's what we want to do. Now, we increased from having 5-6 people to having around 300 something, whatever it is we have. I don't know, 400.
The Du'at in
Du'at, yeah.
in
All across the world. Our staff and Du'at and everybody.
yes,
right?
it's 400. It fluctuates.
Okay.
400 or something.
So we're going to increase, inshallah, this year. So, by
Including volunteers, it's 1,000 with the online
volunteers, more than 1,000, right?
Yeah.
Now, what we wanted to do was, okay, so this one factor, having a da'i who is also a new Muslim teacher. Remember, our du'at are new Muslim teachers. I also want to say something very important here. I remember back in the day, and so do you, Imran, right? People would message us and say, Sabur, Imran, this girl took Shahada, like, iERA, here you go, boom. They just throw us these details. What would we do? You ring a person, right? And they're like, did I take Shahada? What are you talking about? Where you get my number from? Like, when du'at know they don't need to do new Muslim follow-up, they're more likely to take confetti shahadas. They're more likely to take fake shahadas. By fake, I don't mean they're deliberately lying. I mean they haven't done their job properly.
Yes.
When the da'i knows, I am going to be judged not by my shahada number alone. I'm going to be judged by how many of those new Muslims are attending new Muslim classes. They're more likely to give dawah properly. Okay? Or else we're going to get the caravan dawah, which we've seen in Africa, which we've seen in other places, in Latin America too. Somebody comes along and sacrifices a goat, feeds people, says, take your Shahada Islam. They don't know what they're saying. Pictures, gone. We don't do anything like that. We do serious dawah. And the du'at are taken to account. So, you took 70 Shahadas in this village. Where are your new Muslims? I've had conversations, tough conversations with people, directly myself when I'm on the ground. Why weren't these new Muslims supported? What's going on? So, as an organization, we take dawah seriously. Because we take dawah seriously, we take new Muslims seriously because the new Muslims are the du'at. In Africa, we've seen this. George, that we met. George, 80-year-old, accepted Islam. Malawi, where was it? Uganda. Accepted Islam. He gave land for a mosque to be built. And he gave dawah to people in his family. So,
they used to do that as a non-Muslim.
Even as a
non-Muslim, he donated his land to his
community because he was like a leader. So that's why we take these things seriously. So when iERA went through this new direction, that's when we started seeing huge numbers of people accepting Islam. And if you go on to our YouTube channel, me and Saqib were in Uganda last year. We actually documented what is going on with these new Muslims. Because, I'll tell you something. Somebody said, there are a few people who say things like this, something to the effect of, I hope these numbers are real, or, just like a bit, people just, some people.
Oh yeah, that was a Facebook comment.
Yeah.
I saw that, yeah.
Some people are a bit negative about numbers.
Yeah.
The fact is this, every single thing that we do with the mindset of new Muslims first. For example, we don't even choose areas where we know new Muslim support after the dawah will be difficult. For example, there's certain areas in Africa where the villages are the houses in the villages are very far from each other. One house here, one house all the way over there, and it's very difficult to bring people together. We don't want to work in those areas. We want to work in the areas where people are more likely to be gathered together, clustered together, and areas that we can access. So, for example, we can go from our center in Blantyre. We can go from our center in Blantyre, the office in Blantyre, to a village in one of the areas. If we wanted, we could go to a very remote region and give people dawah, where we cannot monitor because it's so remote. You have to trek there. We don't do that. We don't.
And the only reason we don't currently is, like you said, is because
We
the
can't
resource
monitor.
plus the resources are limited. Like if you had enough resources, like we said, everyone deserves a message.
No, but that's a different point,
Yeah.
because even if we had the resources,
Yeah.
right, we had people accepting Islam in large numbers because we can't monitor and provide long-term new Muslim support. Because remember, our new Muslim support, and I put up a video on my channel 2 days ago or yesterday, and that video goes over one area of Malawi and how that's receiving long-term new Muslim support. And that's happening all over Malawi, right? Because what we want is this. We want somebody to turn around and say, weren't you in this region in Blantyre 3 years ago? I saw some Facebook posts that you were in this area. We want them to be able to go to that village and we can show them, here's the Imam that did the 6-month new Muslim program from the village. Here are the people who accepted Islam from the village. Here is the Dawah committee made up of all the new Muslims that we create before we left behind. Here is the new Muslim support officer that roams the region and takes care of many, many villages. Here are the other organizations which have got involved to support these new Muslims. We want an entire life cycle for these new Muslims. And I'll be honest with you guys. If iERA only focused on shahadas and did not provide new Muslim support, more than 90% of our time of the du'at in Africa would be freed up because they wouldn't have to teach new Muslims. So they would go from one village to another and they would get shahadas.
Oh, the numbers will go up.
The numbers would go up by, I just want you to think of this.
Yeah.
If currently in a place like Malawi, we're getting, I don't know the latest stats because they keep fluctuating, but say 3,000 a month. In Malawi, we have 150 something du'at. If we free up 90% of their time, which is teaching new Muslims the basics of Islam, then rather than getting 3,000 shahadas, 90% of their time is free.
5% more.
It could be that we get 90% more shahadas. We're talking about huge numbers here. And remember, then we don't even need to restrict ourselves to areas, because remember, there are some areas where the shahadas are very high, could be very high, but we don't want to go there because we can't monitor. It would go through the roof. I would be saying, okay, every month we're getting, in Malawi alone,
20,000.
20, 30,000, 50,000. Well, it could be anything in Africa, right? Because there's certain regions which are really right. Same thing with Philippines. There were mass shahadas coming through, but the new Muslim support we could not provide because of the geography. The geography of the Philippines was very difficult. So that's why we're now focusing on Jamal was with me and he saw to get to one community, we had to go over a lake, right, on a boat and then get onto motorcycles and go through a volcanic valley to get to this remote region. It was like literally the end of the earth. Right? It felt like that. So we always do things according to new Muslim.
This is very important.
Focus.
Yeah.
Now, look at this, right? We changed iERA's direction from the intellectual to the grassroots, which allowed us to then zoom in and ask these questions. If we were still focusing on intellectual stuff, we would not be able to have this level of detail of planning, right? And resource allocation. So that's one of the, I think, benefits of having this type of hyper focus. And which is why on this Rerouted, which is going to be the last one, we want to explain to people why we're changing direction, why this is the best for iERA's goals, its objectives. Because 2030, we want 1 million people accepting Islam, inshallah, on an annual basis with 80% retention. Currently, we're on 65,000. Last year was 50,000. The year before was around 14,000, just about 14,000.
And it's good we're getting into this much detail because it gives clarity to the people watching and supporting as well. Because they can see. Because if currently, if all they see is, okay, this is the target, we want 1 million shahadas, we got 50,000 this month, 60,000. There may be loads of questions people have. So we're trying to iron out as many things as we can and discuss the nitty-gritties as well, which is very important. Is there anything you want to ask?
I was going to say this, actually, is just adding on to Sabu's point, though. In terms of the shahada trajectory, is that, alhamdulillah, we did get 65,000 last year, our last financial year. But the issue is that we were 10,000 off our target, weren't we? So for us to reach that 1 million a year target by 2030, we kind of have to make up for the lost, I don't know.
But
We do. And this is where, look, two things which are quite important. The first is that we need financial support. There's no other way of putting it. If we are going to take this message to the corners of the world, it's going to take
money. Yes.
It's not, I mean, there's no other way of putting it. So that's one thing. The second thing which we have in place, but we are improving continuously, is a system, which is how do we bring on the best du'at? How do we monitor them? How do we make sure they're taking care of new Muslims? How do we make sure that the new Muslims are being in contact with us long term? What do they need? How do you put them into contact with others? So the system we already have, and we are improving, and we want to make it more efficient. Just today, I had a meeting, and in the meeting, I was explaining to them how in Malawi, we have not increased our du'at, but we're getting more shahadas and more retention. So we're continuously trying to be more effective. We're finding ways to optimize. However, the financial support, without it, we won't be able to achieve our objectives.
Yeah, and it's more because linked to what he's saying as well. It's important that the target itself, whatever the number is in line with the amount of resources we have too. So I'm assuming that those two, you consider the resources when you set the targets, because you can theoretically say, you know, take a resource and push them to the point where they become detrimental for themselves, right? And it implodes basically.
That is exactly the sort of thing which our fundraising department does. It works out for, now this is very important.
Before you go into that,
yeah,
anyone who wants to support the Dawah, what do they need to do?
Yeah, what's the link?
The link, you will see.
Yeah, you'll see
the link here.
Okay, cool.
So the point I was making was the last point.
So I was asking you about the resources, the targets been in line
how
with the
they set,
resources.
right?
Yeah.
We don't put the cart before the horse. Okay?
Yes.
We don't say we got to get 1 million shahadas.
Don't think about the
we've got like
resources.
£5 and 2 apples in our pocket.
And two outreach specialists.
Yeah,
and
2 outreach specialists and a jinn,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you need more humans. You need more Homo sapiens, right? So what we do is this. We say to take care of new Muslims and to give dawah to them in this particular region is costing us X amount. But we want to make this X into this particular number. So this cost, multiply it, what figure do we have? That much. That's the target to fundraise. So when we, for example, we had the iERA events, you know, we're doing conferences, we're doing Ramadan campaigns, we're having targets. We know what we need to raise in order to reach our goals. Now someone can say, just aim for countless shahadas and aim for countless money. The thing is, you don't grow like that. You have to be realistic. If we're on this amount, it's realistic to grow by this amount. I would love to be in a position where I could happily say, we are now reaching 1 million shahadas a year. Wouldn't that be an amazing sight? I would love to have that next year, but we have to be realistic.
For that to happen, you need the resources in place, and for the resources, you need the money.
We need to be strategic as well. I mean, that's the key term, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, you know, one of the things that we learn from the Sunnah is optimism. I think this is very important. Muslims share a lot of negative news on social media. That's just the way social media works, you know, doom scrolling. This happened in this country, that happened in this country. It seems like the whole world is... When you go out to the world, you see, actually, no, you know, you do find birds chirping and you do find children playing in the street. I mean, there is happiness in the world too. It's all sad. And Muslims, they also need positive news. They are seeing negative news of all different kinds. They need to see this to be inspired. Wow, people are accepting Islam in large numbers. It makes us look forward to something. You know, as a Muslim community, as the Ummah, we don't have a collective goal towards which we're going. It's kind of like people are going in different directions. When you have a large goal, many people come and join you. I mean, one of the beautiful things about iERA, and before I joined iERA as part of another Dawah organization, is that it's not about iERA. It really isn't. I can happily say that. We work with Dawah organizations all across the world. We work with organizations that were set up after us, that were inspired by us. We work with organizations that existed before us. We work with everybody who wants to call towards this beautiful religion. Why? Because we understand Islam will enter every house. That for that vision, you need Muslims collectively working together. iERA is simply the largest. But it doesn't mean it's the only one. It doesn't mean that we don't value the other people who've been doing the hard work. In fact, one of our very important tactics is to go to a country before we open our mouth, before we talk, before we do anything, we find the local Dawah organizations and we talk to them.
The Dawah audit. Yeah.
Yeah. We go into an area, we find out what's going on, we get their advice. There's all sorts of organizations that we work with, and sometimes they're not only focused on Dawah, they're also doing other stuff as well. They could be doing community work or whatever. We focus on the individuals and the organizations which have that element of Dawah. Because even masjids, they may have a mosque, they may have children's classes, but then they have a Dawah element. So we'll work with that element. So everywhere we go, we look for those local supporters, right? And I think that's why iERA in 2010, when I came through the door, was based in, London with a few contacts in Europe. And within 13 years, I have seen it grow all across the world because the people in this organization are practical people. You take anyone from HQ, from our HQ here in London, you grab them, you talk to them, you realize they're broad-minded, they want to work with other people, they want to work with other organizations, they're friendly, they're amicable. That's how you work.
You're not including Imran a part of the
They're obviously not, innit?
I think it's Southall, you grow up in Southall, you have a particular mindset, there's a particular culture developed.
He missed out on that. That's why he goes back there every weekend, man. And he calls me, I'm here.
And then he blanks me.
Come see me.
And then he blanks me.
Be in your own way, man. Do your own thing. Learn the ropes yourself. Anyway.
So, but look, we are in, you said you call it the 2030 vision. We're in 2023 now, obviously. And this is so are you saying the phase 4 is still a continuation of it? Or is it more, are we moving into a phase 5 territory? What would you call it?
I would say that those were particular points in iERA's history. Those are behind us. Those are lessons for the future. This is our long-term focus.
Okay.
We want to stick to this. We want to optimize. We want to bring in volunteers. We want the Dawah to grow.
Pretty much those first 3 phases were pretty much where we are right now.
And the phases weren't like, snakes and ladders. It was all going in one. It was going towards where we're going now. We could see things were chiseling away to get to the sculpture that we are now.
Lessons learned, best practices, etc., etc. Yeah. And now we're like that sort of well-oiled machine, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, lean. Because when you have focus, you're lean. Some businesses, right, they have very few things on their menu. Some restaurants, some, dessert places. I'm not sure if you have experienced this, but you go to a dessert place, sometimes there's lots of things on there. You don't know what to order. You go to another place, there's a few things and they're really good at it. So focus, hyper-focus, laser focus is something which leads to results. And why shouldn't we focus on this? This is the most important thing. Right now, if you think about it, if you want to benefit mankind, the greatest benefit you can bring somebody is to give them the gift of Islam. Whether they accept it or not is entirely up to them.
Yes.
And this is one thing, right? This is one thing which, if you want to talk about a issue in the Muslim world, issue X, you propose solution Y, you'll propose solution Z, you'll propose solution A, B, C. Everyone will disagree and argue, right? When it comes to these are non-Muslims, they are Bani Adam, we are going to give them the message of La ilaha illallah. Nobody disagrees. No Muslim disagrees.
Yes.
This is one of the most unifying factors, right? And the power behind the dawah is the dawah has the ability to bring together all types of characters, all types of organizations, Muslims from very different viewpoints. Why? Because we can see there is a clear need for people to accept Islam.
Absolutely. And you know, and we would like you and me, we've been known each other for 10 years or 10 plus years.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, sorry to hear that too, bro. But like the dawah is a passion, yeah? Even outside of the organization, even before I joined iERA, we met before, we spent time before. The dawah is a passion, right? And we encourage everyone, even people watching right now, right? Obviously support this work that we're doing, but do the dawah yourself as well, right? It's something everyone needs to engage in, right? Everyone needs to do. And the best examples for us were the prophets. They all gave dawah. They were the best of people and had the best of roles. And their fundamental role was to call humanity back to their creator. That's why they were messengers and prophets. So invite people, share the message of Islam, right? Talk to anyone. And like as iERA, we have a like you said, we've been discussing the focus the past hour. We have a clear vision, a clear focus. We're an organization. We had the phase where we were putting our fingers in every single place, you know, and that's not effective, right? As an organization, we need to focus. Now we've got our focus, we're focusing in, but the average person out there, you should still give dawah, you know, in your own capacity, in your own locality, speak to whoever you want. And
iERA encourages.
Absolutely. And this is when we still do dawah training courses. Yeah. You know, many of the dawah training courses attendees, they don't join us. 99% of them, 95% wouldn't join us, right? But they'll still, hopefully, the aim is that we train them, we inspire them so they can go and easily give dawah to someone, right? And the Go Right method is a phenomenal method to do that. You guys can go check that out on training.iera.org, right? So you can learn that whole thing for free, inshallah. That's a resource we have up there. So give dawah, it's very important. And yes, guidance is in the hands of Allah, like you said earlier as well, right? Allah guides who He wills. Your success, ultimately, your success in the dawah is determined by your sincerity, right? Which is between you and Allah, right? So, and we know there were prophets that got very few shahadas. Nuh alayhi salam, 950 years, very few shahadas, right? Was he successful? Absolutely. Right? We teach this in our dawah training course. That's the example we give, right? To give people the right psychology and the right mindset when you're giving dawah. Because what ends up happening is when people go in with the wrong mindset, they fall out of the dawah. If they're thinking success in the dawah is getting lots of shahadas and they don't get that, then they think, I'm not a good da'i, I'm not good at this, I'm going to stop, right? So going in with the right psychology and the right mindset is very important. Success is with Allah. Your success is in you delivering the message with clarity and sincerity, two things, right? But as an organization, and it's important I'm making this distinction, as an organization, we, over the past 13 odd years, we have found that we need to focus to be successful. And this is something we're good at, right? And we have a clear focus and we are doing that now. This is why, because there's people that ask these questions, bro, right? Why did you go to a certain area? And we've discussed this at length. Instead of this area, don't they deserve the message too? Of course they do. But as an organization, we have limited resources currently, and we are focusing. We are strategically thinking, where can we place these resources to get the best results?
I remember Salman Sugimoto in Qatar. He made a suggestion. I don't know if it's been implemented yet. About
is this related to the point?
Yeah, it's about the one KPI. Obviously, I'm just going to start talking about some random stuff.
You've done that once or twice already.
Yeah. So yeah, he mentioned the KPI of, like, look, it's generally in the West. The thing is people take a lot of time to reflect and ponder.
Generally, yeah.
Generally. Yeah. It takes quite a time. So the typical new Muslim or revert that you do speak to, sometimes their journey was like, it took them, even though they knew Islam to be the truth, it took them a year, or two, several years even in some cases for them to truly accept it and become Muslim and take the Shahada. And then he did suggest a KPI of every time you have a conversation as a da'i with a non-Muslim and they accept Tawheed, like the oneness of Allah, that should be taken down as a sort of KPI.
It's very difficult, bro.
Yeah? Why?
I don't know, it just sounds like something, like, how do you judge that? Okay,
because at the end of the conversation,
they may say, I agree with Tawheed, right? And you take what you're saying, you're right.
No, but the thing is, if we look at where it's headed, it's still headed in the same direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Inshallah.
So, for example, if we really want to optimize, we go to a village, 7 people accept Islam out of 30, but the rest have accepted G.
Okay, yeah.
Which is God, which means God.
And some have accepted O.
Yeah.
Some are
That's
confused about R. So, I
Revelation.
mean, I understand what he's saying. And look, this is beautiful because if we want to work at a large scale, we need metrics.
Yep. Data.
We need data,
Yeah.
right? When Elon Musk is making decisions for Twitter, right, he's using data. So is Zuckerberg. So is, what's that, Bezos guy, right?
Who's your inspiration as a CEO? The question came to mind.
Vince McMahon.
You must have an inspiration. Mick Foley.
No. Vince McMahon is the CEO.
No, but genuinely, who is your inspiration? You must have someone that you
I have honestly not thought about that.
Yes,
It's
you haven't even
Vince.
thought about being a CEO, right?
I've honestly not. You call me off guard there. One thing I find hard to believe is that I'm the CEO because I came in as a volunteer, and I remember Saqib Sattar, Sheikh Green, Yusuf Chambers in the early days, 2010, 2011. When I said something to them, I'm being absolutely honest with you guys, they took it seriously. And they took it seriously if someone else said something. Because I think one of the blessings of being in an organization like this is that the founders of this organization listen to people. That makes a difference. It really does make a difference because you will not progress if the people, I don't like you saying the word bottom, right? But people right in the grassroots, right at the bottom, if they do not have a voice to speak to the people who make the decisions and they have no input, you will not have a successful Dawah organization. So from the very beginning, that was there. And I think that, you said, what inspires me, that way of thinking inspires me. Listening. Just listening, just having the ability to listen. There are sometimes fantastic ideas in the Dawah. In fact, even The Man in the Red Underpants as a book, that was suggested, the whole concept of it came up, did a Dawah training course, someone came up with the example and the Sheikh took that. So I think that's what's really inspiring, right? Really, really inspiring. I would hope, by 2071, we're all gone, right? Maybe Saqib's a really old man by then, the rest of us are gone. And he's
Inshallah.
just like Futurama, just ahead.
The brain in the
In the back of the day, I hope people listen to this. I hope people really do listen to this because I think this is one of the most powerful things you can have as a culture, where everybody say is valued. It's actually valued. And I would add even Johnny Muller. For those of you who know,
put his picture up somewhere.
our distribution guy, right?
Put his picture up. Come on, get his picture up.
So let's put it to the test, yeah? I've got this great idea. You can't laugh at me now, yeah? What if we get all our du'at, yeah, to become shepherds?
Fantastic idea.
Do you like
Where did you think of that?
No, I'm just like,
I think the podcast is getting made long, so Saqib.
I know.
By the way,
Arranged.
that's a good joke to end on. It is actually a good joke to.
So I think one of the things we should end on, bro, is we've announced that you're the CEO, mashallah, now for iERA going forward. You took a while to announce that. We're not going to get into why. We'll ask you why. You are the CEO. There's people watching that support iERA. There's people watching that have supported your work generally, even outside and before you became CEO. What is your pledge to the people? What do you want to say to them? I want to put you on
That's
the
really
spot.
sticking it on me.
Yeah. Of course, you're CEO now. You're a responsible guy, bro. Bismillah. You share the vision, but what do you pledge? What are you saying to them?
yeah, how are we going to fulfill that vision?
There are many pledges that can be made when it comes to the Dawah. The pledge that I would like to make is that, inshallah, by the permission of Allah, we are going to think big, we're going to be positive, and we're not going to stop until we reach our goals. Inshallah.
Perfect. Anything else you want to add, bro?
That's enough.
It's a bit dramatic, so I want to sort of lighten it.
That's
before we
good,
end the
that's
show.
good.
Go back to the goat example.
The goat, shepherd. Is it a shepherd?
Shepherd with goats.
With goats.
As opposed to shepherd with cats.
We've
sheep.
We've
Usually
officially
shepherd,
announced
usually you
this as the,
associate a shepherd with sheep. Not
There you go.
goats.
You're
we've announced this as the last episode. Yeah. But I'm sure people are watching, they're going to be thinking, yeah, okay, this is just getting started. You know, it's phase 5. You know, is there going to be a new show? We can't, obviously we don't know. But what do you guys think? Should there be something else?
Ask the people in the comments, what do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want to hear? Ask them.
Do you want like a regular Dawah update, iERA update show? Do you want Q&A? Do you want just to see Sabur sitting there in front of the camera, you know, combing his beard? What do you guys want? Let us know, inshallah.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
People power. Okay, so we are going to auction the rerouted logo, this nice neon sign, mashallah. We're going to have our HQ team members sign it. We won't be able to fit all the 460 signatures of our art in there, unfortunately. Abeda will have a link. We'll set up a link in the description. So click on it, enter your bid, and then the highest bid amount would win, inshallah. And I've got General Salpak calling me continuously, but but yeah. So that's the end of it. We're gonna have plenty of great content coming up over the next months and months, inshallah. It has been a bit quiet and dormant, but we're going to have some really good stuff coming up over the next several months and for the foreseeable future. So, Jazakallah, Sabur Ahmed, the iERA CEO. He's been iERA CEO for a year now. And Imran Hussain, Jazakallah. Until next time.